Hey, welcome back, everyone. Last time I was ending quite abruptly because it was actually quite funny. My battery was empty, was started flashing, and I heard people coming nearer because I'm sitting in a yurt and there's nobody living here at the moment, nobody being in here, so it's empty. And I thought this was a nice spot, but yeah, because it's empty sometimes, people come and have a look. Um, so I had to end quite sudden. And in the middle of the two big revelations that I had at Vipassana about pain and about um, the mind creating the body. And I still hadn't explained what the mind is about for me. Like, it's good to have it clear, I think, for everyone to understand what I mean. Like, some people think with the mind that it's about thinking. That's where the place where you think, the place where you imagine things. Um, but I mean the mind more in a larger sense. In Dutch, we have a word for it because we don't have a word for mind in that sense. We call it geest, and geest, literally translated to English, would be spirit or ghost. And actually, in Dutch, geest is the word for mind, and I mean it in that sense. So I actually mean the mind as being your spirit, your complete beingness. And when I looked in the mind of myself during Vipassana, as I said, it became this huge, enormous, almost endless space of nothingness. And I could observe in there. So I am not my mind, but I identify, I think, mostly with the observer. Um, and the observer observes the mind in a way. And in that observation, because at Vipassana, the interesting part of Vipassana for me, which I never got the first time, but the second time I finally saw that, is that when you look at your sensations, so purely at your sensations on your body, touch or coldness, warmth, it is the most real thing that exists in this, I would say, illusion. Because, first there is mind, empty space, spirit, mind, like hugeness. And from that hugeness it creates a body. So within the mind, there are programs doing that, I suppose, you could say. And this body is like the receiver of sensations. So this is the first real thing of this illusion. Like of course it is an illusion because the real thing is the mind, but in a sense the body would be the realest thing existing, and with the body the sensations of the body would be the realest experience you could have in this illusion. And for me that was extremely important. I will explain why. Because the thing is that I've always, when I read books, I listened to people channeling, people having ideas, people, seeing things in themselves or in others. I would take it on if it felt good, or I would reject it. But to see it by myself um, is for me so much more valid than listening, to other people saying it. So when I saw this observation I had, it was for me, it was crazily important to see something where everything starts, where this illusion starts. It starts with sensations. And because your mind, who is programmed, there is a program running in this mind, several, I suppose, is making it either a sensation you want or a sensation you don't want. And from there on, it gets into either pain or pleasure. So pain in itself doesn't exist as true as the pure sensations of pressure and cold and heat and all that. So pain is a step further away from truth in a way. It does exist, obviously, because everything that we with our mind create exists. But it is a step further away from reality, which was a very interesting thing. Because reality, what I saw, is that mind, is the spirit, and nothing else. There is no other thing real. But that mind spirit creates an experience through sensations and the body, and that seems real to us. But in actual fact, it's all the mind. So the most real thing in this realm is sensations. That's my discovery. I used to, like, for instance, I would believe in the moon. The moon would have like certain powers, blah blah blah. I would go to moon gatherings, all that. But and I would also try to connect with the earth and with nature. But every single thing that we experience is our mind and nothing else. So now it seems a bit silly to me, to go to moon gatherings and to try and connect with the earth, because it is all our mind. Okay, so yeah, so actually, from that point, I started looking further into my mind to see where it ends, where there are limits. I haven't been able to detect the programs as such. I cannot see them. To me, it looks more like an enormous sea of nothingness, or an enormous space of nothingness, where a thought can be a thing in there, like it can suddenly come up and it will be something in that space, or a feeling, an emotion. Although feelings and emotions are the result of your sensations in a way, and your mind, of course, making a wanting or not wanting about those sensations that causes emotions. So emotions are also a step further away from what you are. And not that the goal has to be, to be your mind and to constantly only look at that, because of course having the sensations and living in a illusion has its interesting facts. At least that is how I feel now. um, so yes, for me, pain was starting to become something that wasn't real. The more I started to look into pain, the more I looked into these pains I had. It would sometimes feel like somebody cutting open my back on the top, and then as if stuff needed to come out. And that pain, if I looked into it, it disappeared, and it became like heat or cold, but that was it. It was nothing really. There was nothing. So I would follow the pain. I would follow it and try to catch it in a way, but it wasn't there. So that was very strange. And in Vipassana, the original idea is that Buddha used Vipassana to look at an end for suffering. The story goes, which is 2,000 years ago or 2,500 years ago, so I have no idea if this is true, but it's sort of logical in a way. Buddha was a guy who was already in his life trying to become enlightened, and he was already trying to help a lot of people. And I think he was a prince or something. I don't know his full story. I just know the part where he was doing Vipassana. And at some point, he wanted to find a way for people to no longer suffer. So he wanted people to become at peace with themselves. And also, he would like that for himself, I suppose, but he was doing it mostly for others. And he decided at some point, I am going to sit under this tree. So he had found a tree that he liked. I'm going to sit under this tree and I'm not going to eat or drink. I'm just going to sit here until I either die or find out how to eradicate suffering. And he used the method of Vipassana, just observing his sensations. It was already a known method at that time. He didn't develop it. But by looking at his sensations, he started to see that, everything was created by the mind. And eventually, he came beyond the mind to where the programs came from. I never got there. And he saw the origin of the program and the mind, and he realized that he did not have to come back anymore because he had seen through it. And that is what he said out loud when he stood up from sitting there for 3 days or however long. He sat there and he said out loud, well, you can no longer catch me now in this karmic circle of birth and life and death and birth and life and death. Because what he saw was apparently that when we have these sensations, our mind makes them either wanted or not wanted, and that is the cause of suffering. So whether it's actually pleasure or pain you feel, it doesn't matter, because both will eventually cause suffering. That is the idea. Even if you feel pleasure, you will try to get pleasure again and again and again, and that will cause suffering. This whole search for pleasure will cause suffering. Plus, the pleasure is usually the most pleasurable in certain moments that you cannot recreate. So it's like a search, an endless search for something that is unachievable. So he looked into this pain-pleasure, and he realized that the pain, especially, but also the pleasure, the big attachments we have, he would say, in a way, the attachments or the repulsions, he would call it. So the things we try to push away and the things we crave, they eventually form sankharas. It's a word from India, I suppose, or Burma or somewhere there, and it means these attachments. It's about these attachments. So you would form sankharas, and these sankharas, when you die, your biggest sankharas, the most biggest cravings or repulsions you would have, would instantly attract you to a new life. So it's not like you die and you meet angels and you decide somewhere in the afterlife how to get, how a next life could suit you. No, you die and you are pulled instantly by your either craving or your repulsion towards the next situation that fits. So that was for me like, oh shit, I thought it would be so much nicer that you would be sitting somewhere with your past friends that also died, or your parents, I don't know, and with angels, and you would think about, yeah, what would suit me? What could I learn in the next life? No, it's not about that. It's about simple quantum physics, attraction or repulsion. It's simply that. And in a way, repulsion is the same as attraction, because pushing something away is also the same as attracting in quantum physics. So the interesting part is that you are pulled into a new life. You have absolutely no moment of consciousness where you think, oh, maybe I don't want this. Or maybe, after death, I want a break. No, you're just, it continues. It's just going from one life to the next. And yeah, that gave me a bit of a shock, because I realized that's true. For me, like, it resonates a lot. And I can see that that is a lot more logical than my previous thoughts. And so this vortex that you experience when you die is actually the pull, the enormous pull to the other life, to the next life where it fits on your sankharas. So you start with in the same form of suffering as where you just ended. And eventually, of course, you evolve in that way, because yes, you come in the same cravings and aversions, and you will probably get sick of them and, move past them at some point, or something, or you create new ones or whatever. But this is an endless stream of life and death that we've been going through. And that is something that also brought me some really big insights, um, especially since when my father died last January. So not this year, but the year before, in 2021. I followed him with my energy, to see what happened with him during his dying. So he was in a sort of dying for 3 weeks. I wasn't physically with him. We were in Corona lockdown. Not that that would have stopped me, but I chose to experience it from a distance. And I could feel him, and I could feel his processes of where his attractions and repulsions that were caused by his sensations were keeping him in his body and keeping him out of peace. Like he could not find peace in this letting go process of, yeah, of these sensations. And the sensations needed to shut down bit by bit for him to be able to let go. And I suppose most people die this way. And when he died, it actually wasn't such a big energy as I thought it would be. Like, I probably beforehand thought, oh, this is, going to be like very noticeable. But because he had such a long going towards it, step by step by step, where he let go every minute, every bit more of creating his body in a way, he sort of, yeah, just suddenly it stopped, or the creating of his body, it just stopped. So the body stopped. And yes, and that's so it was for me interesting to see, because I wondered what he would do when his body stopped and he would be with his mind. And he was aware that he died, I believe, and very soon also he noticed that I was there with him. And we had a contact, but he was also busy with a lot of other things. He was busy with his wife a lot. And I realized that he still had his personality, he still had his programs, he still had all these things, but except for maybe the body. To me, he did not feel different before or after. So it felt the same. And but I kept track. I kept contacting him regularly, and over the time, over the weeks, it changed. And there came a time where I could not find him, and he had left. He had actually gone, and he may have been pulled into another life. And I don't think time plays a role. It might have for him happened instantly. For me, it took weeks for that to notice that. And when I tried to contact him, eventually I saw more of a light than my father, and I realized all the programs are now gone. They are gone, and he is no longer, my father, actually. And this is, while I always thought that nobody ever dies, because everything continues and the mind continues. But then I realized, yes, yes, there are things dying. He's no longer my father. He is now a light being. So that was a big change. Um, and that made me very sad, because I think maybe I comforted myself in a way that I could still contact him and talk to him. And he talked to me about his death at some point before he became a light. He explained what was so hard about letting his body go and why it took so long. And yeah, it was just it was more in feeling than in words that so it's a bit hard to describe what he was saying. I have more feeling of it. Um, but when he was a light being, I didn't have much questions anymore for him. He he was just light. He was just like information, intelligence, and light. But yeah, not my father. So that was something. So that was my own experience with death in a way. And um, when I realized that people are being pulled towards their next sankaras, I realized that he had been pulled towards his next life in a way. Maybe instantly, as I said, I don't know how it works with time. It could last weeks for me, and for him it could be in a flash. And so the only thing I could contact was probably his soul, his light in a way. Yes, so it's a big, it's like a big world that I don't know much about. It's like sometimes I feel I'm just starting actually to scratch on the edge of what we are. Um, and everything in this realm, in this illusionary realm with the programs, and even after that, it all seems to be somehow ruled by quantum physics in a way. And it doesn't feel to me like that is what God is. And I do believe we are God. So somehow it feels like we are God, but programs are separating us from that or something. It's a strange thing. But okay, yes, I'll continue with the Vipassana. Yes, so to my big surprise, when I started to just observe the sensations, and at some point, seventh day or so, reach a state where I was no longer craving the very nice sensations that I would have, which like they were very nice. There would be sensations of where I would be feeling completely light, where everything felt vibrating, like all my cells were vibrating in a sweep from head to toe and back, and it was an amazing experience. But not craving that anymore, and also not trying to get away from my pain. And also I realized my pain is these sankaras, is these attractions, repulsions coming out, like all these old stock I have in my body of attracting and repulsing, and they just came out because I was just observing. It made me also realize that that is why Eckhart Tolle probably says that the body is in the now. Like if your body is a gateway to the now, he says. And of course I can take that as a truth, but now I could see why, because the body is created in every second and it is constantly different. And you can constantly change it if you would be conscious. And so you could instantly heal also, like, or, anything could happen. Another very strange thing that happened to me in the Vipassana was that at some point, I think 7th day this started, 7th, 8th, 9th day it happened, that I felt as if my face was being pushed like that. I would be sitting, just meditating, and then, my face was pushed. Like I would feel as if, I don't know, as if somebody was massaging my face very strangely, like very slowly, like that. And then it would stay like that for a while, and then it would let go, and then it would go that way. And it's just very strange. So, but it kept on going, I think, for even a week after I came back home. And my face had completely changed when I come back from Vipassana. it looked so different. Everybody was telling me that I looked younger, I looked different. And so that's another weird thing that I have no explanation for, but I think it has something to do with being in the with being aware of the every moment your body is created, just being in that space of observing your creation constantly in a way. That must have done something. I don't know. And the other very strange thing is that because of the no longer feeling that I wanted something or that I was pushing away something, no longer feeling that, I was okay with pain, I was okay with pleasure, I was okay with it all, I just let it be. I was starting to enjoy my life. There was a lightness that came into my feelings, a lightness that I have not felt for a very, very long time. Actually, during Vipassana and when this started to happen, I realized that I had been depressed for quite some time, maybe longer than I even know in a way. And because I felt so much lighter and so much clearer, and I enjoyed things again, just small things, anything really. It was all enjoyable. Yeah, that was so weird because I always thought, yeah, as I said in the previous video, I always thought that when you reach like equanimity, when you reach like a a neutralness in a way, but neutralness does not cover it because it's so alive. Neutralness feels for me quite stagnant in a way, and this felt really lively. This felt like a constant flow of the sea, but like in a very equanimous way. I don't know another word for it. Yeah, equanimous. So so everything started to become pleasure more pleasurable or so. Yeah, just my life became light. I started enjoying life. And then the great thing happened. And I will end this video with that because I see that I'm already at 27 minutes. The great thing happened that higher parts of me were accessible again. And the first thing I heard, like I used to hear sentences. I would be able to talk with higher parts of me and hear full sentences or get images or feelings. And now the first full sentence was, "You will be so happy that you have done this Vipassana." That was the sentence, and it landed somewhere in my being, like it landed somewhere. Not so much in my head, because usually these sentences, these words, I hear them with my body. It's not like I, hear them in my brain or something. Although I suppose my brain will have a part in translating what the information is saying. But the information was that I would be so happy, which actually to me sounded a bit threatening in a way, because I was like, okay, what is in my future that I will be so happy that I have experienced this Vipassana? So yeah, you can imagine my curiosity was aroused, and I began full conversations with my higher parts. And this of course will come in next videos, because this is still going on a daily basis. But at that time, during the Vipassana, I already got a lot of answers to questions that arose. And of course, you're not supposed to be spending time with asking questions of your higher self in Vipassana, I suppose. But I was just too happy to hear my higher voices again. So yes, I will end the video with that. Well, I hope you guys enjoy it in a way. And if you recognize it, please let me know. I always like to hear that too. Or if you have different feelings about things, also very interesting. So see you next time.